Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaykum, dear listeners. How are you? I'm well. I am enjoying a really lovely, crisp and cold and beautiful morning here in the UK. Autumn is my favorite season. It's perfect for walking. I love the outdoors. I hope some of my videos have inspired and encouraged you to embrace the outdoors as well. The outdoors are therapeutic, they are healing. I'm sitting in my garden at the moment, which is very messy. As you can see, lots of leaves on the ground, which I'm basically just going to ask my sons to pick up at some point and then reward them with a nice dinner. So I'm here today to talk to you very briefly about the hijab again. And the reason is that the question that is posed to me the most often is this: should I wear the hijab or not? And this question often comes from Muslim women who are very aware of God. They are connected to Allah. They consider themselves accountable to Allah. But many of them are experiencing a lot of anxiety. Some are experiencing depression. Some women have isolated themselves. They feel so conflicted about the hijab. They can't bring themselves to step outdoors. And equally, they find it very difficult to adhere to the practice of hijab. And so many have isolated themselves. And it's a really painful place to be in, to stop meeting friends, to go out to study and work. And I do know of at least 2 examples where women have left education because they felt so conflicted about it. And so this question keeps coming up again and again: should I wear the hijab or not? And for those of you who have known me now for a couple of years, you would know that unlike our traditional scholars, I don't believe in giving yes or no answers to people. What I believe in is creating an empowering space, a space where you can make a decision for yourself and find that inner calm and peace in making the decision for yourself. So I'm not going to say yes or no to you. I think the decision would still sit with you. And in the end, our accountability to God also is at a personal level. And so every soul shall bear the burden of its own deeds. And we need to take that accountability and that ownership ourselves. For me, the most important thing today is to explore this question itself: should I wear the hijab or not? And then I also want to just very briefly clarify to you how I've approached this topic so far and what my understanding is. So it's a very short video where I will cover this. So coming to the first point, should I wear the hijab or not? Where does that question come from? That question comes from a couple of things. One, the expectations which have been set for Muslim women amongst our religious circles and social circles, that if they are believing women and if they are practicing Muslim women, they must wear the hijab. So the hijab now comes with the must or should. You should, you must. It is obligatory, and if you don't do it, you're actually not fulfilling one of the key responsibilities that God has set for you. This is the narrative that certainly in the last 40 odd years Muslim women have been exposed to. Tied to that is also the question of identity. Muslim women often bear the burden of maintaining the identity on behalf of the Muslim community. Now, I'm not going to explore the question today. It's a separate question and quite a complex one about whether Islam wants us to have a distinct identity, a distinct look, a way of dress or uniform to tell others that we're Muslim. That's a separate question. But certainly that's how the hijab is positioned now, is that Muslim women almost carry this communal responsibility or responsibility on behalf of the community to look Muslim. And so the weight of expectations is very, very high. And I did not experience that growing up in my time. This is not how this discussion, actually the hijab was never mentioned in conversation in families. And the questions really were around modesty, around modest dress, and that women, when they go out, they should dress modestly. So that's where the emphasis used to be. So I think certainly for women who are younger than I am, this has been a very difficult journey growing up in an environment where they're constantly bombarded by these messages. One of the key shifts that has happened in the last 30, 40 odd years is that Muslim women have been told repeatedly that hijab is an obligation. It is fard. I've even come across some writings from people and I find these writings quite extreme in the sense of their absolutes and the certainties, where they have said, well, it was always obligatory and it is just as obligatory as the 5 daily prayers. This is quite a claim to make. And so this question of should I wear the hijab is coming from this kind of constant pressure we face around social expectations and religious expectations that have been set for us as Muslim women. And I think the anxiety then comes from a place of us understand. I think sometimes people don't understand when they impose the hijab on women or put them under pressure, is that the hijab is not just a piece of cloth on our head. When we wear the hijab, it also entails changes to how we conduct ourselves in public. And sometimes wearing the hijab, and depending on how the hijab practice is expected from us, would also mean that women do end up making choices where they will withdraw themselves from society. And so wearing the hijab is not just about a change in dress code, it is a change in an entire behavior, our choices, how we conduct ourselves in public, and whether we choose to occupy public spaces or not. And because it is such a loaded question, it then comes with all of that anxiety and that fear, and particularly the fear that we are earning the displeasure of God if we don't wear the hijab. And as I said, some of the popular narratives are just so troubling, where women are told that they will go to hell if even a strand of their hair shows. Hijab has just been made the measure of women's piety and modesty. So that's huge amounts of pressure that women are carrying. And this is where the question comes from then, should I wear the hijab or not? And it has really become the foremost question for Muslim women these days. Certainly that's been my experience when I have interacted with Muslim women. I now want to clarify how I've approached this topic, and I hope that would also give you further clarity around the status of hijab and how I've understood the status of hijab, whether it's fard, it's obligatory, whether it's recommended or not. And my discussions on hijab so far, and my hijab series on my channel still continues to be the most popular in terms of garnering interest from the audience, continues to get lots of views and questions. I've shared my research there, and I would like you to revisit that. If you haven't had a chance to look at my hijab series, please do. I will do one final episode where I will discuss the epistemology and politics of hijab, inshallah. We'll go into this in a bit more detail, but I'm very briefly going to pick those things up today. How I've approached the topic. My interest in the topic of hijab is both personal and academic. Personal because I wore the hijab myself for a period of 10 years. That's a long period of time. I was very committed to it, and I was very committed to it, and I practiced it very properly. And then I stopped wearing it, and that was an informed decision. And the informed decision came from research. And it is that research that I've shared with you in those videos. Not all of it, but most of it. There's a lot more that can be said about the hijab. So when I approach this topic, the point I'm trying to make from a research perspective is hijab a part of our deen? Does it have salvific value? Does it have accountability in the hereafter? Will Allah punish me if I don't wear the hijab? Is it a sin not to wear the hijab? And so this is where my questions sit. The questions are academic. The questions are about the status of the hijab in our deen. Is it obligatory? Is it fard? Or is it recommended? Is it mustahab? Or is it something optional which would still give us some reward, but it will not lead to sin if we don't wear it? This is where my inquiry, my research quest sits. My answer to this is actually quite simple. I do not consider the hijab to be obligatory. I do not consider the hijab to be part of our deen. Now let me explain to you what deen means. Often this term is misunderstood, and we use it in very generic ways, in various ways. We make a lot of things part of our deen when they're not part of our deen. For example, people will say, if you use a miswak to clean your teeth, then you're earning more sawab. Not really, because the miswak was not part of deen. What was part of deen was to clean our teeth. So hygiene is part of deen. And so what we class as part of deen, what we put in that basket, is very important to understand. And inshallah, I will be launching my website soon, and there will be courses there where I discuss the difference between hadith, between sunnah, what is classed as deen, what is not classed as deen. Deen is what we would loosely translate as religion. So it's the teachings which are revealed, and this is the Quran, that's the revelation. And then we have the normative praxis of the Prophet. So those actions and practices which together form part of Islam. And if we don't follow them, then we will be held accountable in the hereafter. An example could be that we say our prayers 5 times a day. We are accountable for it. This is part of our deen. Now Allah tells us in Surah Al-Ma'idah, and this verse is key in understanding this. He says that He has perfected our deen for you. So this is Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 3. And it is a long verse, but I'm just reading an excerpt from it now. Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum deenukum. Today I have perfected your deen for you. Akmaltu is from kamil, from perfect or complete. So today I have completed your deen for you. What this tells us is that our deen is not a mystery. It is not a riddle. Whatever is part of our deen has been fully explained by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was his responsibility, and because he had discharged that responsibility, that this verse has been revealed in Surah Al-Ma'idah. This is one of the final few verses to be revealed, and often we are told that the verse was revealed after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam completed his last Hajj, which is just about 18 months or so before he passed away. And so the Quran is there with us. It's available to us. Anybody can read it. What is classed as the actions and practices which are part of our deen have also been explained by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no evidence that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave a dress code to Muslim women, or he ever said to them that even if a strand of your hair shows that you will go to hell, or he said that Muslim women, you must dress as the women of my household dress, and that is part of your deen. There is no such commandment that we get from the Prophet. The Prophet took pains to explain the deen to us in its entirety. He taught us how to do wudu, how to wash our face, how to clean our teeth, how to wash our feet. He taught us how to trim our nails. He taught us to say Bismillah before we start eating. He taught us to say Assalamu alaykum. He taught us the prayer. He said to his Sahaba, his companions, both women and Sahabiyat, and both women and men, pray as you see me pray. And then he demonstrated what prayer looked like. He actually told people how to do the ruku. He told people how to do the sujood, how to bow and how to prostrate in prayer, what verses to recite in prayer, how to recite them, what du'as to recite in prayer. He's told us all of that. So he goes to this level of detail to explain deen to us. And yet he never once says that covering your hair in a certain way, or dressing like the Arab women, or wearing the jilbab in a certain way is also part of deen. Now this tells us that a particular dress code was never mandated for Muslim women or for Muslim men, and hijab has never then formed part of deen. Hijab, therefore, has always been a matter of interpretation. And different schools of thought in Islam have had different interpretations for hijab. Some have considered it to be mustahab or recommended. It is only a small school, particularly Ahlul Hadith, who are quite text literalist in their approach, who consider the hijab to be obligatory. And some ulama have even said that Muslim women should dress how they have understood that the Prophet's wives used to dress. And some have used the example of the Prophet's wives to even argue that Muslim women should stay in their homes. In my discussion on Surah Al-Ahzab, I've picked up some of those verses, and I've explained to you that the verses are very specific to the wives of the Prophet because they had a particular status in the Muslim Ummah. So if the hijab is not obligatory, what status does it have? Or what does it mean for Muslim women? What it means for Muslim women is that hijab is a matter of informed choice. And that informed choice needs to come from the heart. It needs to be a heart-centered choice. Therefore, I'm going to urge Muslim women, please do your research and then follow your heart. Follow what you're comfortable with, what you are at peace with. If you feel that wearing the hijab brings you closer to Allah, that it strengthens your connection with God, and that dressing modestly, however you define modesty in your culture, in your context, and you feel that dressing modestly brings you closer to God, please do the hijab. Because I fully believe that when we practice something with the best of intentions, then Allah will reward us. And inshallah, Allah will reward those Muslim women who make that choice. If, on the other hand, you feel like I do, that I do not need to wear the hijab, that it is not part of my religion, I might change my mind in a few years' time. I always follow evidence. When I felt that the hijab was obligatory, I wore it, and I wore it for a long period of time, and I wore it very properly. Now I don't feel that hijab is obligatory, I don't wear it. And so for me, that personal integrity is very, very important. I think our actions and our words should match, and I think that's an expectation Allah has from us, because He doesn't like it when we deceive ourselves. So if you feel that you do not need to wear the hijab and you do not consider it as something that brings you closer to God, that is absolutely fine too. The only thing that I would say to women is that often we make choices because we feel under pressure, and in the end we should be making choices based on what we feel is the right thing to do. Hijab is a matter of Muslim women's right to dress as they want to dress. I think all human beings should have the right to dress how they want to dress. And so if Muslim women want to wear the hijab, they can wear the hijab. If they don't want to wear the hijab, that is fine. My point about the hijab is quite simply that the hijab is not obligatory. To make it obligatory, to make it as obligatory as prayer, requires evidence. In the absence of that evidence, what people are doing, what our ulama and certain conservative elements in society are doing, is that they are adding a bid'ah or innovation to religion by declaring something fard or obligatory which has not been declared obligatory by our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and which has not reached us as obligatory as the knowledge of deen has reached us. My other objection always, I'm sure you can see now that the sun's catching my eye, the other objection that I have around hijab is that it has been made the only measure of a Muslim woman's piety and modesty. And again, this is a bid'ah in religion. We should not be using measures like that to assess people for their piety and modesty, because of the great harm this approach does. When a Muslim woman does not wear the hijab, or does not dress in a certain way, does not conform to the expectations of the religious circle that she hangs out in, then often her character and her person are slandered, or she's judged negatively. And I think that that is patently unfair, and I think that that is cruel. And a lot of the anxiety that Muslim women experience actually comes from that, the constant badgering that they get of these messages. I hope that in this short video I have managed to clarify both my positionality, but also the fact that I fully respect Muslim women's choice to wear the hijab. My only point would be, if you wear the hijab, please do this on the basis that this is your interpretation of deen, that you feel that this is an informed choice and you feel that it brings you closer to Allah. If those things are happening in your heart, you are feeling satisfied and feeling at peace and calm with that decision, please make that decision. Otherwise, do some more research if you need to do more research. But just keep those criteria in mind. I think in the end, the choice will always sit with you, and it is not my place to tell Muslim women whether to wear the hijab or not. My place is to clarify what I have understood in terms of the practice of hijab and its status in our deen. So I hope that this is helpful. I can no longer open my eyes because of how bright it is. I'm going to enjoy the sunshine a little bit more. I hope that this short video has been helpful, and inshallah I will be online soon with some more exciting content. Oh, and don't forget, I have a live Q&A coming up with Iram Saeed on Saturday, inshallah, 4 p.m. London time, where we take your questions and comments about women as interpreters of the Quran. Okay, take care everyone, inshallah, and I will speak soon. Assalamu alaykum.